8-Bit Dylan. Time for the intro to my videos. Just make weird noises with your mouth. Hey guys, quickly before we get into this episode, just want to remind you guys that I worked super hard on this series, and I do apologize for the long wait on this episode. This episode took way longer than I was expecting in terms of editing and filming, so hopefully you guys do enjoy it. Also, quick reminder, make sure to leave a like on this video and hit that subscribe button if you're new here, share this with your friends, and spread around the love that is Danganronpa. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoy. After the execution of Rei Higashi, the rest of the classmates went numb to their surroundings. Another one of their fellow students had fallen, and with no exit in sight, the promise of escape felt distant. Everyone fell asleep that night, hoping some sort of miracle would happen the next day, waking them from a terrible nightmare that went on for far too long. Sadly, this never came, and in the morning, everyone was surprised to find the stairs leading to the third floor of the high school had been opened. So now it's time for us to check out the third floor of Hope's Peak Academy. Once you come off the stairs and you go to the left, you'll find two awesome abandoned classrooms. And then to your right, you'll find a rec room filled with lots of entertaining things for the students to enjoy. If you go to the right off the stairs, you'll find an art room filled with canvases, sculptures, and works of art. Off of the art room, you'll also find a sculpting and woodworking room filled with all kinds of awesome art supplies. And off of the art room, you'll find a green room filled with tons of awesome, cool, and crazy looking plants. And off the green room, you'll find a tool shed filled with an assortment of different tools. Then continuing down the hallway, you'll find a strange laboratory. This lab is filled with also some unique different items, a machine that no one really knows exactly what it does, and some very outdated medical equipment. Alongside this, you can also find weird rock samples that no one really knows what exactly they are. And lastly, off of the main lab, you'll find another storage room filled with lots of strange science class equipment. And of course, another locked stairwell leading up to another floor of Hope's Peak Academy. With the third floor active, everyone was super excited to go and explore some of the new spaces that had been unlocked for them. Hokusai and Masashi clung to the green room. It reminded them so much of the outside world they so missed. Yurisa, on the other hand, was not a fan of the green room. She knew if she walked inside, her allergies would kick in hardcore. She'd be walking around like a zombie, sick for the next few days because her allergies were that bad. Even the art room got a little bit of love as Sata and Tetsu couldn't wait to dive into the art supplies that were held inside of it. Even the science lab got a little bit of love from Hokusai and Tokyo. Both of them seemed intrigued by the machine that was inside of the room, as well as some of the strange rock samples that were sitting on the shelves. After walking around the third floor and discovering all the sights that could be seen, Sata discovered a box inside of the rec room. Inside of this dusty old box were articles of clothing possibly worn by previous students of Hope's Peak Academy back in the day. Inside were some hats for Sata and Tokyo to enjoy, as well as some sunglasses and a necklace for Tetsu and Yurisa to enjoy as well. Who left these mysterious articles of clothing behind? The classmates weren't sure. All they did know, though, is that those articles of clothing were left behind, and now they were theirs. All right, now that everyone has kind of sufficiently explored the third floor, I'm just gonna let them loose. A few people still have their clothing items on that they found in this box in the corner of the rec room. It's gonna be a good time. Look at them, they're already all connecting with each other. You know, despite all of the craziness they've had to endure in this so far, I think they're gonna survive. Who am I kidding? You know someone's gonna die in this episode. Ooh, Yurisa. Oh my god, she is like exercising. I would feel a little... Whoa, Tokyo, what are you... I was so creeped out. Did y'all see that? I was just like looked in the mirror and then all of a sudden I see Tokyo just staring at Yurisa in the background. That was a little scary, but they're just getting some exercise in. You know, I would still feel weird about this because Masashi was attacked in here, But, you know, it's whatever. Masashi's getting his gaming on in this old looking computer that's in the library. I would feel weird being in this room. Like, they know someone died here. They know Aya's dead body was right here. How are they all just okay with this? Hokusai. He's got so many like new nerdy things to look at. He's got the library. He's got the cool machine upstairs in the bio lab or whatever lab it is. I don't think it's a bio lab. It's just a laboratory, but still, lots of cool things to look at. Ooh, what is she doing? Oh my God, is she a girl? Oh, it's like a magnifying glass of some sort. Oh, that's what it is. Oh my God, how are you using that with the brim of your hat? Sata, you know what? Be you, girl. Be the best genius you can be. Thankfully, Masashi's hand is all healed up from the attack in the last episode, or actually last 2 episodes of this series, after Aya had attacked him. I'm still pretty shocked that Rei was the killer, but I'm so happy you guys were able to find who the killer is so we can continue the series. Everyone's still unsure how they're actually going to escape the school, though, because they can't honestly live here for the rest of their lives, can they? I mean, that seems pretty depressing if you ask me. But imagine being in the same situation that they're currently in. Like, you just don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if you can trust everyone that's around you. You don't know if someone's going to turn on someone else. Like, the tension in this school must be so high. Sata is in love with this foosball table. She's also got a few magazines back here that she can read if she really wants. We've got a cool dartboard in here. A box full of thrift store clothes, though I think they've already emptied out this. There's only like a few hats and like weird odds and ends inside. And there's this like creepy tree here. I don't even know what it is. It's some weird, rare breed of tree that's just, inside of Hope's Peak Academy. I don't know how Monokuma managed to get a tree in here, but whatever. Are you enjoying that game, Tokyo? I don't think she's enjoying this murderous game that she's currently in, but she's definitely enjoying the one on this computer. I don't blame her or anyone else, though, because I would definitely want to distract myself from what's going on in this school, because imagine actually being trapped here for the rest of your life. Like, that would be pretty depressing. Gotta love those awkward moments where everyone just kind of stands there and smiles and stares at each other. Okay, there they go. Now they're actually moving. The Sims 4 is just so weird. I don't get it sometimes. Oh my God, they're all like hanging out up here without Tokyo. Tokyo's the only one not here. Party in the rec room. Oh, there he goes. Yep. He's like, I'm about to hit up that microscope, that gigantic, crazy microscope. I had no idea that's what this is, or that's what this was, so that's pretty cool, actually. I think I'm gonna let them just go about their business for the rest of today, and then maybe we'll check in with them at nighttime during dinner time to see how everyone's doing. Later that night, Sata made everyone some dinner, and everyone sat down to really just enjoy it. Yurisa decided to share a story about how she became the national champion in volleyball, and what it felt like to actually be there for her team and win something. That inspired Hokusai to tell his story about also becoming a national champion in chess. He said that he was training for that moment in his life for years, constantly playing chess game after chess game after chess game, just so that way he could perfect the art of thinking 5 steps ahead. While this conversation was making him happier, still there was a little bit of sadness deep inside of his voice. Would he ever be able to play another chess game again? While she didn't have any awesome achievements under her belt, Tokyo could not stop talking about all the amazing concerts that she's been to. Growing up, she was in love with K-pop music, and if you could name a K-pop group, she could tell you anything there was to know about that specific group. Masashi had a hard time talking to everyone else. It wasn't that he didn't like everyone that was left inside Hope's Peak Academy. His life didn't consist of chess or volleyball or K-pop concerts. Masashi's life was pretty boring and strict. His father owned a massive company, and that is what inspired him to create companies of his own. Masashi is only known about business owning, and his life has been centered on making as much money as he possibly could. His only fear was that his businesses would fall if he wasn't there to keep them together. Sata had a pretty exciting life herself, being a well-known makeup artist and famous YouTuber. She says she's traveled around the world and then some on her crazy adventures doing makeup and becoming famous because of it. And while Sata does miss her crazy adventurous life, she does oddly find a sense of calm being inside Hope's Peak Academy. Maybe her life was just going too fast at the time, and this is a nice break from that adventure. Minus the whole killing thing, which she promises she will never do. Unlike Sata, Tetsu really hasn't gotten out much. He still lived in his grandma's basement, and used to run one of the biggest Star Wars forums on the internet. His life was surrounded by geekdoms. And unlike everything that's happened inside Hope's Peak Academy, Tetsu has this strange feeling that he's actually starting to make some friends. I guess I could thank you guys for helping me out of my shell. Everyone continued their dinner, but it wasn't gonna last long because Monokuma was soon going to announce something to the rest of the student body. Suddenly, after dinner, Monokuma's voice could be heard over the school's PA system.
Everyone, please report to the first floor gym. I've got a message for you all to give face to face.
Begrudgingly, everyone made their way to the gym and were met with a very excited-looking Monokuma awaiting to see their sorrowful faces.
Welcome, everyone. Your numbers are looking quite slim lately.
Masashi shouted out, "We only have you to blame for that, Monokuma. What is it you wanted us for?"
Geez, someone is cranky today. Well, I'll have you know that I've got a special prize in store for someone willing to commit the next murder.
Sata sprang up. "No one is going to play your stupid game anymore, Monokuma, no matter the cost." Tokyo joined in. "I'm sick of seeing people die. Haven't we had enough?" Monokuma growled under his breath.
There is never enough when it comes to despair. You may think you are done playing my game, but just wait till you hear what prize I have for you all.
The student body glanced at one another, nervous that someone might fall for Monokuma's next motivation for murder. Monokuma held out a present for the students to open.
Anyone want to be the person to open my gift to you all?
No one jumped at the opportunity.
I said, is anyone going to open my gift?
Again, no one moved. Hokusai blurted out,
"Whatever is inside of that present isn't going to make us turn on one another. I hope you know that."
Monokuma rolled his eyes and began pointing at everyone.
"Eeny, meeny, miny, you,"
said Monokuma as his finger pointed directly at Tetsu. Against his intuition, Tetsu stepped forward. "Be careful, Tetsu. No clue what Monokuma might have planned," says Yurisa. Tetsu unties the ribbon to the present, revealing nothing but an empty box inside.
"It's just an empty box,"
questions Tetsu.
"It isn't empty, you silly. The box was filled with all your hopes and dreams. My gift to you all is if someone manages to get away with murder, they not only will be able to graduate this academy, but they will get whatever their heart desires."
"You can't be serious. That is your motivation to get us to kill each other?" says Sata, almost offended at the gesture.
"Money, power, even revenge against me if that is what you so wish. Your families outside of this school could live comfortably if you manage to graduate. All it takes is a little bit of murder."
Masashi begins to laugh under his breath a little bit, and Monokuma looks slightly offended.
"What's so funny, Masashi?"
Masashi can't hold in the laughter any longer. "You actually think that's going to work? You must be pretty stupid."
"What?"
Tokyo nods her head in agreement. "With all the sick and twisted things you put us through, you think granting us a wish like a genie is going to get us to murder? Nothing is going to work, Monokuma." Monokuma's face twists in anger.
Are you sure? I worked really hard on this one. Not even a little bit of motivation to murder.
The room was silent, and for the first time since entering the sick game, everyone actually felt semi-confident in sticking together. The hope began to rise inside of their hearts.
"If you say we have to live here for the rest of our lives or murder each other to escape, I guess we're going to be stuck here for a very long time," mentioned Hokusai, chest puffed out in confidence. Monokuma could only growl in anger from what he'd heard from the classmates. Had Monokuma's motivation really not worked on anyone? Monokuma quickly escaped out of the room in frustration, and the rest of the students were left to their own devices. They were no longer just classmates, but began to form a bond as friends. Stuck in this dire situation, they had no one to rely on but each other. Sadly, the level of friendship held after Monokuma's message would not last long, as the next murder would happen the very next day. And so everyone headed back to their bedrooms to sleep for the night. In the morning, everyone decided to wake up and meet up with each other for breakfast. There they discussed how awesome it felt to come together as a group of friends. Little did they know that later that same day, one of them would be found dead. What you're about to see are the events leading up to the next corpse discovery here at Hope's Peak Academy.
Tokyo makes her way towards the laboratory. As she enters, she finds a fire billowing from the side of the lab. Quickly, she tries to find some help, and she runs to Sata, who's inside of the rec room. Sata's shocked as well that there's a fire inside of the school, and so the both of them race towards the lab. Along the way, they bump into Hokusai, who's heard all the commotion going on upstairs. They tell him exactly what's going on, and they all rush towards the lab. Hokusai manages to put the fire out using a fire extinguisher he found inside of the shed inside of the green room. But after they put the fire out, what they saw next, they couldn't believe with their own eyes. They found the charred corpse of Tetsu Oyama. It was then that Monokuma gave the all too familiar announcement,
A body has been discovered. Check your handbook for the next Monokuma file.
What you're about to see are a series of clues that'll help you in solving this murder. Here's what the Monokuma file said. The victim was one Tetsu Oyama. The body was found at 6:20 p.m., burnt inside of the lab on the 3rd floor. The victim shows 2 significant wounds, one deep stab wound on the left side of their torso, and a major fracture to the left side of the skull. Because the body was burnt, cause of death is hard to calculate. The body also appears to have been doused in turpentine and lit on fire. Based off the amount of damage caused by the fire, it is safe to assume the fire had been burning for about 15 or so minutes. Who could have done something like this? Which one of you guys did this? Shouted Masashi at the rest of the classmates. The truth was that no one really knew who could have done this. Just earlier today, they thought that they were the best of friends, so who could have possibly turned on their group in order to escape this school? Regardless, they knew exactly what they needed to do. They needed to find as many clues as they could in order to solve this mystery. Immediately, Masashi picks up on the fact that there is nothing burnt around Tetsu's dead body except for the can of turpentine. That's when Monokuma enters the room to let everyone know that the reason why nothing else could possibly have been burnt inside of this lab is because most of Hope's Peak Academy was built to be fireproof. Monokuma explains that the reason why Hope's Peak Academy is fireproof is to stop people from burning their way out of this school and out of Monokuma's game. Sata takes note that the hammer that was previously on this desk is now in a different position from the last time she had come to the lab. Tokyo then points out that there seems to be some sort of bloody stain on Tetsu's left hand. Hokusai noticed that Yurisa still hadn't shown up for the body discovery. Sata and him decided to go see if she was in her room. When they arrived, they found a very sad-looking Yurisa answer the door.
Where were you, Yurisa? Didn't you hear the body announcement over the PA system?
I don't want anything to do with this anymore. I'm sick of this stupid game Monokuma has us playing,
exclaimed Yurisa, trying to hold back tears.
Yurisa, I think you should know at least who was murdered. I'm sorry to say that Tetsu was found dead in the lab.
Yurisa immediately burst into tears at this announcement. Sata and Hokusai try their best to comfort her before asking more questions.
Yurisa, what were you doing earlier today? I know it sucks to ask, but you know we are limited on time and need to figure this out, asked Sata.
Choking back tears, Yurisa answers as best as she could, detailing that her and Tetsu were carving wood in the art room, but she left after she finished her sculpture. She said that was about an hour ago and she hadn't seen Tetsu since then. Knowing that they likely wouldn't get more information out of her, Hokusai and Sata left Yurisa to allow her to mourn. Meanwhile, while Sata and Hokusai were questioning Yurisa, Tokyo and Masashi investigated the art room. The first most obvious thing that they noticed was one of the cans of turpentine had been missing from the shelf. The next thing they noticed is that the floor seemed to have been recently cleaned, though sloppily, because there were pieces of wet sawdust still on the floor and parts of the floor were still sort of wet. That's when Tokyo noticed that there seemed to be a tiny pool of blood near one of the carving stations in the back of the art room. Tokyo then noticed that there was definitely a carving knife missing from one of the woodworking stations. Masashi then noticed that there seemed to be a complete wooden sculpture on the floor next to one of the wood carving stations as well. On their way back from talking with Yurisa, Sata and Hokusai noticed something interesting inside of the nurse's office. Sata originally wanted to stop in here for some headache medicine. Inside of the medical cabinet, there seemed to be a bunch of gauze, bandages, and ointment that were randomly put inside of the cabinet, not in their original spots, as if someone had tried to put them back in a hurry. Masashi gave the lab a second look just to make sure they didn't miss any clues. Notice that everything that was on the left side of the lab, or his right side, didn't have anything really changed. None of the rock samples had moved, None of the medical equipment had been moved, not even the chair had been moved from its previous position. He did, however, notice that there seemed to be very tiny traces of sawdust that could be found at the entrance of the lab. As well as the entrance of the lab, particles of sawdust could also be found inside of the grooves on the bottom of Tetsu's shoes. On their way back up and exhausted from the investigation, Hokusai double checks the green room and tool shed, but doesn't seem to notice anything too strange inside. Everyone met back up to discuss the clues that they had found and used this time to determine where everyone had been for most of the day. Masashi told everyone that he spent the entire day cleaning the bathhouse. Even though no one can confirm he was there, he says his proof is that the bathhouse is spotless now and it wouldn't have cleaned itself. Hokusai said he spent a good deal of his day inside of the library, but did notice something very strange earlier today. About an hour and a half ago, he said he bumped into Yurisa running down the stairs frantically on his way to the restroom. She seemed quite frazzled as she completely ignored him and went downstairs to the first floor. Hokusai said he just assumed she was exercising and didn't pay much attention to it. Sata explains that most of her day consisted of eating food in the dining room, listening to music in the AV room, and reading magazines in the rec room, which she spent most of her time doing. She says she didn't hear a thing at all up until the body discovery announcement. Tokyo says that she was actually in the lab earlier that day using the microscope machine since she didn't get a chance to use it the day prior. She decided to take a break and relax in the sauna, and on her way back is when she discovered the fire blazing in the lab. She said that she had left the lab unattended for nearly 30 to 40 minutes. After everyone shared their stories, Yurisa barged into the lab and walked over to the burnt corpse of Tetsu. Immediately, she burst into tears. Yurisa cried out through her tears, "I'm so sorry that this happened to you, Tetsu. I should have been a better friend. Whoever did this to you will pay." Masashi went to go comfort Yurisa, but then noticed something hidden underneath Tetsu's body that had not been discovered before. Gently moving the body, Masashi found a bloodied carving knife, the same one that had been missing from the woodworking stations. What did all of this mean? Who could have done all of this? Do you know what happened to Tetsu Oyama? You should now have all the clues you need to put together the story of how the murder happened, as well as who the murderer is. Do you have what it takes to catch the Blackened and save the rest of the student body? Reminder, if you enjoyed this episode of The Sims 4 Danganronpa, make sure to leave a like down below and hit that subscribe button. We are super close to 100,000 subscribers on this channel, and I cannot believe that we've grown to that size. Guys, I can't believe it. Make sure to leave a comment down below with your theory on how this happened, and hopefully one of you can solve the case. Like I said at the beginning, this episode took a long time for me to make. This was just so jam-packed with stuff. It was way more jam-packed than I was expecting it to be, so I do apologize for the long wait on it. And until the court case next week, I'll see you guys around then. And until then, stay awesome, stay beautiful, you lovely people. Bye-bye.